Внимание! Говорит и показывает Москва. Работают все центральные каналы телевидения. Смотрите и слушайте Москву.
Lying at the core of the university's approach is the model of continuous education, which includes in itself all possible stages, of which are foundation courses, college, bachelor's degree, master's, postgraduate regarding scientific degrees, as well as seminars and trainings in MBA if we're talking about business management.
I applied to the university 5 years ago, and now I'm doing my master's. These 5 years I have been getting work experience. Moreover, I was given the opportunity to get experience specifically in my financial sphere.
At the university, there are 14 faculties, of which are technical, IT, communications, psychology, economics, law, and of course business. All our programs are tailored to specific requirements of the employers. This gives our students not only a good knowledge of the subject, but a fair understanding of how the business works.
We gladly employ students of Synergy, as they are already prepared and committed to developing themselves in the banking sphere, and this is what we prioritize.
We always have some interesting events, business workshops, entertainment events, and competitions. New faculties are springing up, as well as new departments. Some things are reorganized and modified, and this is very cool, because we can maintain a competitive edge and churn out competitive specialists. And I already feel a part of the Synergy family.
Thanks to this university, I realized that the responsibility for my own life rests only on my own shoulders. By changing ourselves, we change the world. And if we change for the better, then so does the world.
You can make contact with these civilizations, and you
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello students, welcome back to the 8th meeting of America-Europe Conference and Exchange Program 2021. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dara and I will be your master of ceremony for today's agenda. As we know, today we will have 2 hours meeting on university orientation. So the first university would be from Synergy University, Russia, which videos you have seen just now. That will be delivered by Ms. Anna Yanovskaya, the Director of International Admission Office of Synergy University, Russia. And after that, we will have a business class with Professor Brandon F. Fleming from Boston University, USA. All right, who's excited for today's agenda? Raise your hand manually or use the raise hand feature. Okay. All right, but before we start the main agenda, I would like to mention the overview of this program. America-Europe Conference and Exchange Program is a virtual exchange and conference program initiated by Student Academy under the Student International Education Group in collaboration with Center for Strategic Entrepreneurial Leadership or CISEL Universitas Indonesia. This event aims to connect students and youth with international universities through online classes, coaching, and sharing sessions. In this program, we invite the university's representatives and lecturers or professors from Malaysia, United States of America, and Europe to give classes based on their specialist majors and orientation about their campuses. Furthermore, we also provide sessions of student or alumni sharing about study in those mentioned countries, about their study experience, and also scholarship opportunities. So we hope that you guys will gain new insight, new motivation, new inspiration, and obviously new information and new network to pursue the higher education in America and Europe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, to lift up the spirit of tonight, I would like to invite all of you to turn on your camera and turn on your microphone too, so that we can yell our tagline together, okay? Okay, there's still so many people turning off their camera. Please, people, turn on your cameras because this event wouldn't happen twice in this year. And we already have the university representatives and our professor with us. So show your happy faces, show that you are ready for today's agenda. Okay, I can already see many people turning on their cameras. So as usual, when I say, "How are you?" you will say, "I'm a leader, you're a leader, we are leaders." All right, are you guys ready?
Ready.
Okay,
Ready.
please yell a bit, yell a bit. It's okay, so that we don't feel alone in our room. Okay, who are you?
I'm
leader,
leader.
We are leader.
We are leader.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. And now, without any further ado, let us proceed to our first agenda, that is a university orientation from Synergy University, Russia. And this session would be delivered by Ms. Anna Yanovskaya, the Director of International and Admission Office of Synergy University. Please welcome Ms. Anna.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Crystal
Yes.
clear.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for such a warm up. It was really exciting. And thank you and welcome everyone. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Anna Yanovskaya, International Department of Synergy University. First of all, I would like to thank you for investing your time to know more about our university, Russia, Moscow, because currently Moscow and Russia is becoming the top place for international students, and I will show you why. Actually, let me show my presentation. That way you will be more interested. Hold on. Okay, so let me tell a little bit about Synergy University. We are not just a university, we are the educational corporation, which was founded in 1988. And we have more than university, we are more than education. We have education in all the modes that are possible, like online, and on campus, and we have the business school, everything, but we will talk about it in a bit. Let's talk about the main location that we have. We are located in Russia. Do you know anything about Russia, by the way? Okay, I will. I see that not everyone can. The feedback will have the questions answering, so everything will be good. So let me tell the Russia how it is nowadays. Well, first of all, Russia has changed a lot excitingly within the last 15 years. And now, according to the World Organizations, if we're talking about education, the comfort of living, we are in the top 5 of the world. The last metrics were made last month, and Russia was in top 5 by the countries which are comfortable for living. And at the same time, we are like Russia offers high quality education by a very affordable price. So that's why for the last 5 years, our number of students is becoming more and more because of the high interest in studies in Russia, and because that some countries they actually open Russia as a new destination, the one which exciting and combines both standards of education, modern technologies, and very high rich history, which is really interesting for like the vast majority of the world. In the picture in my slide, you can see it's the city center of Moscow. It's the historical building. And further, I will show how these buildings are combined with, for example, skyscrapers, which stand by. So it's really interesting, and all our international students are usually fascinated by that. Also, if we're talking about Russia, we should mention the level of medicine. Lately, it's very important during the pandemic times. Russia has shown very great results and has proven why actually our medicine is appreciated. And at the same time, we can offer the comfortable, well-equipped campuses, dormitories on the level of American standards and European standards, and sometimes even more than that. If we are talking about the main location of Synergy University, where actually all the students start their journey, is Moscow, because our international students are located mostly in Moscow. Moscow is the capital. And here, by the way, you can see the skyscrapers that stand by, the historical buildings, and all of this is available for our students. So if we're talking about Moscow, the main idea is the dynamic. It's very dynamically developing, not only educational technologies, but we're talking about the headquarters of all international companies that are located in Moscow. And our students have the access actually for part-time job and further career building in these companies in the headquarters. If we're talking about combining the practical and the theoretical education. Also, it's by the last top investigations, the Moscow occupies the second place in the world by the availability of parks like leisure activities, and also the safety as well. We can talk about infrastructure, what we hear from our students. It's really reachable in Moscow, it's comfortable to use, and it's not only in Russian language, it's also in English. And if you come up almost to any person in Moscow, almost everyone speaks English, and everyone is always very ready to see some foreigners, so that we very like to present our country and Moscow as well to our foreign students, foreign visitors, and always love to welcome them. So, and if we're talking about Synergy Corporation, which is located mainly, I mean, not only in Moscow, but for international students, the journey starts here. The main facts you can see on the screen. So we were, the Synergy was established in 1988. Currently, we have developed in different, we have different departments. We have Synergy University, we have Synergy Business School, We have more than 100,000 students, and if we're talking about international students, Synergy University is
Excuse
in
me.
top. Yes,
I'm sorry, the slide's not moving yet.
not moving.
Yes.
Maybe I should. Let me try to go back and forth. What slide do you see?
From the first you
It's
told
not on
that
the first
we
slide.
don't have
On
the
the
slides.
first one.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop the demonstration. I will show again. Okay, let me start again. Okay, what about now?
Okay, yeah, it's already here.
Okay, no. And if I go back, do you see the back? Because if you haven't seen the pictures, I will be really sad about it. Let me try to go back. Okay, it's not moving. Okay, but at least you have the information. I will send the presentation to Static Corporation so that they can also send to students who are interested also to revise maybe, because I will have some practical tips in the end of the presentation. So if you miss out something, please just let me know. I will go back. So about Synergy Corporation, we have also the international accreditations. We have 7 AMBA accreditations. It's the accreditation for business programs, and the majority of, for example, if we're talking about USA, the majority of American universities has this accreditation, and as well Synergy, and we are the unique and the only one educational institution in Europe who has 7 AMBA accreditations. I started talking about the quantity of international students. Currently we are top 5 by the quantity of international students in Russia. And I think that's why, because we have the high level educational programs, and we also have the high level of service, because we have the support team, visa department, and our students encounter only professionals who are always ready to help and instruct what to do when, about deadlines and everything. Let me go to the corporate structure here. If you see, I hope you see it, so that you can see how many actually except of Synergy University is here in our corporation. And it gives our students actually the great opportunities for not only theoretical education, but also for practical knowledge, for internships. And if they want to practice upon graduation in Russia, they are more than welcome. We have like internships going on, and then our students apply here and have the career here in Russia if they want. I will talk a little bit about it later. Now let's go to the regional area. As I told you, all our international students are mostly located in Moscow, but here on the map you can see the campuses that are located around Russia and post-Soviet countries that we actually send the students. So they are working and studying there as well. So we have more than 140 regional branches as well. About the faculties, you can see in presentation, we have actually 28 faculties, and the most popular ones are, of course, connected with business, with hospitality. We have also launched the faculty of medicine not far ago, and this faculty has the general medicine, pharmacy, nursing. So by the top prices, I mean top available prices, even if we're talking about Moscow. And also we are very focused on giving the practical education to our students. So we have signed the contracts with partnership with the private and state hospitals. So our students from the 3rd or 2nd year of education, they already start some internships and hands-on experience in their sphere. And when they graduate, it's easy for them to find the job. If they want to stay here or go to their country or to some other country, it's always possible. Okay, here's about our other events. When the students apply to Synergy University, they become the part of not only just students, but the part of Synergy community. And our community is taking part in the most fascinating things that are happening in our corporation. And one of these things is actually the Synergy Global Forum. Actually, that's the reason why we are twice in the Guinness Book of Records for organizing these events by the largest business forum in Russia and in the world, because we have organized this forum not only in Russia, but also we had such locations as New York City, for example, and we have the contract signed with the speakers that are the most appreciated ones in the business sphere. You may ask some questions later, but usually our students are also the part of the Synergy Global Forums, and they have this opportunity to maybe help with organization and interfere with these top speakers, and then have it in their CVs, or just visit and enjoy the biggest people, I mean, in business, sharing their experience and giving some tips for people who plan to start. We also, as the university, were the first university in Russia for sure who has launched their digital platform for education, not only for our students who were on distance because of the coronavirus, but also for people who were isolated, like during this pandemic time, but they wanted to continue education, to continue learn something. So we have launched the digital platform Synergy.online, which actually has now more than 50,000 viewers. And it's a really good result for the university, because it means that we are interesting for people, not only for our students, and that we have the high level content there. So our students are really high tech. They have this access to everything, and usually our students are really ready to study when they have such interactive platform going on. Okay, about the international activity of the university, we can talk actually for a long time about it, because we have offices opened in Great Britain, in USA, or we have campus also in Dubai. We have the wide network of agents recruiting the students, and the students coming directly. These are the key information, here is the key information which we can talk about, is that currently we have more than 10,000 international students studying in Synergy University. They are from, I think now it's more than 89 countries. We also have some faculties going on other territories, and we have really high interest from international community for our programs. So by the top Russian websites and by their information and their research, we are on the second place in Russia by the universities where students ready to apply. So I think it's also you should know about it, and later I think I'm almost sure you will understand why we're at the top in Russia. If we're talking about universities and what programs are the most popular and available for international students, as maybe you know, maybe not, the majority of programs in Russia are taught in the Russian language. That's why very important before starting the education at the degree programs, you have to study Russian language. We also have one program in English language, but why we not insist, but I usually advise my students to start with foundation, with studying Russian, because if you plan to, upon graduation, to start building career in Russia, you will need Russian language as well as English, because that way you will start very, very successfully if you know both languages, at least two, but I'm sure you will know more. That will make you the high-level professional faster. That's why we offer 3 types of foundation courses: foundation course general, medical foundation course, and hospitality foundation course. General foundation course, the usual length is 9 months, so 1 academic year. At foundation course, you study intensively Russian language and mathematics and social science. These subjects are needed to successfully be enrolled and continue education at bachelor, master's, or master's degree. If we're talking about medical foundation course, this course is a specific course for those students who plan to apply further to medicine, to general medicine, nursing, pharmacy, all these subjects, because this course includes intensive learning of Russian language, biology, and chemistry. And also, I will tell you now about the hospitality foundation course. Actually, to all these foundation courses, the intake is still open. So if you have just graduated and you were thinking about where to go, or that you are too late, it's not too late. We're still receiving applications for foundation courses. And the hospitality foundation course will start in December, actually. Why I'm focusing on this course, because this is the top course for those students who actually plan to do it in Russia or in your home country to develop the hospitality sphere, or maybe to own some business which is connected with hospitality. At this hospitality foundation course, students also study intensively Russian language, but they also study some subjects that are connected with the management, with the hospitality sphere. And also at this course, students will have internships, because our hospitality faculty is has the partnerships with more than 40 institutions, not only located in Moscow. These are 5-star hotels where our students who are enrolled to bachelor degree, they already start from the first year of education part-time working in 5-star hotels, for example. So our students of foundation course will be able to start even earlier while they're at foundation course. And to have some experience. Again, here we are not only about theory, but also about hands-on experience. And also, we're talking about the bachelor degree, which we have the education in English language. It's the bachelor degree in entrepreneurship. So as I told before, we are very strong business school, and the bachelor's entrepreneurship actually is the program which was voted for among all our international students when we were planning to launch some program in English. We came up to our students and said, hey, what do you think? What will be the best program for you to study in English? And they have chose entrepreneurship. So basically, it's the course bachelor degree when you graduate with a state diploma, but at the same time, you graduate with the understanding what you are going to do. And usually our students have already the startup, some business going on, which brings them already some profit. Not only, it can be not only in Russia, it can be in the home country. So students have this understanding how to be the CEO of their company or the top management, or they have all needed skills to actually launch their own business or go further to the top management positions in the companies. As I told before, in Moscow, they have all opportunities for that, because all the headquarters are located in Moscow of international companies, maybe even of the companies that you have in your country that were launched in your country. They have the headquarters. If they have them in Russia, they have them in Moscow. And that gives our students the opportunity to apply there and to maybe start their career there as well. About the requirements for students, we have not very strict age limit. I mean, it's you should be at least 18 years old and up to 40. And to start the process, you should have the international passport and should have some educational document. For high school graduates, it's high school diploma. If we are talking about that you already have, for example, bachelor degree and you are going to master's, then you should also have the bachelor degree diploma with you, and so that we are able to evaluate this. I think we will talk during our questions and answers session a little bit more about our foundation programs. So please write down if you have any questions about them. I'll be glad to tell you more about the procedures and everything. I've talked a lot about combining the practical knowledge, hands-on experience, and theory, because Russian system of education, it's very strong system. It's in the first places of education, but not a lot of universities are focusing on hands-on experience. So our students do get the practical knowledge, do get the internships. It doesn't matter at what we are talking about business-related subjects, business-related majors, or like medical faculty, international relations faculty, or any. And our students actually have the possibility to combine the studies and work, because Mr. President, Mr. Putin, has signed the document in 2020 year, which allows the students, international students, who have study visa to work part-time without any additional work permits. It makes the life of our international students way easier, because to work actually in Russia, you need to have the visa, be a full-time student. You should study at the university which has accreditation and license, and that way you can work in your free time. Like in your free time, I mean part-time. Part-time, it's 20 hours per week. And of course, at the same time, get some money, get some knowledge, and just enjoy your life in Moscow. So we are more than welcoming. We are launching the career centers. If we're talking about hospitality there, the internships are not available. They must have the internships since the first year of education. So I think it's a great opportunity and a great way to appreciate our international students, to give them the same permits as, like, for example, Russian students have. So I think that will be the general information for today, and I will be ready to answer your questions and to give you more full information.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Anna. Oh, wait. Can I ask first, what's the correct way to pronounce your name?
Anna Yanovskaya.
Anna Yanovskaya.
So you were totally correct. That makes me so happy.
I'm Russian. Okay, thank you, Miss Yanovskaya. Okay, so we already have several people raising their hand. Okay, first from Miss Anna, but this one is from Indonesia.
Okay, you have a nice name.
Anna to Anna.
Yeah.
Привет.
Здравствуйте.
Hello. Nice presentation. Thank you for the presentation. I love it. I would like to ask about, is there any other requirement that we need to complete as the students, like bachelor students, like a CV, maybe a type, or IELTS, or maybe like we have to do something when we go to there? Thank you.
Well, actually, depending on the country, there will be some additions. Like, for example, you need to make the legalization of your educational document or apostille or something like that. But you shouldn't worry about this, because with this, we will help you. Your study company will help you, and me, I'm always in touch. About IELTS, no requirement for IELTS, because we are talking about Russian language. So if you're applying to bachelor degree, you apply to foundation and then go to bachelor degree. So that way, entrance requirements are really easy, the only that I said. And of course, we always evaluate the students individually. It means that if you understand that you are willing to study in Russia, you should not worry twice, just send your documents and send your request to study, and they will help you to find the way and find the available program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Anna, for your question, and Miss Anna for your answer. How that helps. Okay, now we have Miss Nurul Inayah Takwa. Please ask your question.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity and nice presentation, Miss. So My question is it's about our situation right now. So does the COVID-19 impact the international activity, and how the Synergy University solve this problem? Thank you.
Okay, well, of course, it tried to influence our international students, but we had the online education during 2020, since the middle of 2020. But currently, if we're talking about the COVID situation in Moscow, we don't have for now any restrictions, and we don't have them since, I think, May 2020, because very fastly the vaccination is going on, because maybe you know in Russia was invented the vaccine among the first countries, and now everyone is vaccinated. And the same opportunity, if our international students want, when they come to Moscow, they have the opportunity to be vaccinated as well. If we're talking about visa processes and traveling, actually 2 months ago we have received the new strategy from Ministry of Education. We are staying in close touch, and currently we are able to bring international students from any country, even if this country is closed now. Like the airplane and everything is closed, we are still able to make the visa invitation and then contact the Russian embassy and help you out to get the visa. And by the way, speaking about visas, we have almost 100% of visa approvals, which also is very good one level, because we're in touch with embassies and we know what documents are needed, and we make the full support and full preparations for our students. So currently I cannot say that we were affected any badly by the COVID situation. Of course, we need to travel with some new, rules like COVID tests and something, but I think it's not a big problem, and we are helping our students with that.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Thank you for such a good question.
Answer, and I really appreciate the solution for Synergy University, because it's really a good solution for the international students. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for your question, Ms. Nurul Inaya, and for the answer. Yeah, visa issues, it's really, really annoying when we are international students, especially during this COVID situation. Like, you renew the visa, but some regulation change, and yeah, things can go wrong. But thankfully, Synergy University doesn't have that kind of problem. So guys, what are you waiting for? You study in Moscow, in Russia, but no visa issues. Okay, so before I continue to the next person, if you guys have any questions but you cannot turn on your mic for some reason, please type in the chat box so I can read it for you. Okay, so now we have Miss Maya Sarimanar. Please ask your question.
Hello, Ms. Nana.
Hello.
Greetings from Indonesia, and it's great to know you're here. Actually, I'm still curious about the foundation program that you mentioned before, right? So could you tell us more about the foundation programs? Is it compulsory for every student to enroll in Russia?
Yes, you're requesting more information about the foundation courses.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, what exactly? The length, the requirements?
Yeah, so I think
okay. Let me revise once again about the foundation course. We have 3 types of foundation course: general foundation course, medical foundation course, and hospitality. If you don't want to go to hospitality or medical, then it means that you need to go to the general foundation course. The requirements are the same. You have to know what program will you apply after the foundation course. You need to send the international passport, the previous document of education. The length of education, we have 2 intakes, 9 months and 7 months. 7 months is the course which starts in February, and it's more intensive. For now, we still have the intake opened for foundation and medical foundation course for students who plan to come to Russia in November. So we're still open for applications. When the students come to Russia, they start studying intensively. Usually it's from 3 to 5 times per week. It's about 3 hours per day. and studies are very intensive. The first semester only Russian language. After that, the second semester, the subjects will be added depending on the type of your foundation course. So it can be biology, chemistry, mathematics, or social science, or hospitality related majors. So the second semester you have more fun, and but at the same time you study Russian language as well. When you successfully graduate from foundation course, at first, what we do, we appreciate our students. We give special offers on further education and bachelor degree, master degree. We help to choose the program, and it's easy admission from foundation course. So basically what you do, you write entrance tests, and usually all our students who have successfully completed the foundation course, they are enrolled for further education to our programs.
Okay. That's very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer and your question, Ms. Mayasari. Okay, so we also have a question in the chat box from Kau Susane. Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Ms. Anna, for the wonderful presentation. I agree. My question, can you share your email for any further assistance for international applicants? Yeah, please. Ms. Yanovska, because maybe our friends here would like to reconsider first, but later they would want to ask you a question.
Well, I think it will be comfortable also if the students can apply to the specialists of static company. I know that you have some kind of WhatsApp chat maybe, and that way we have the communication, and I will be sure that everything's going good. But of course, I can share the email. Maybe I will talk with them specialists with a study company, and then they can share my email. Maybe also I can send the presentation so that you also can look through.
Okay, so don't worry, guys. The presentation would be sent after. But for now, is there any link or any website that we can refer to?
Yes, I will send. Actually, we'll have yes. No, we have the websites for foundation programs actually in different languages. I'm very we have heads for divisions for developing of different regions, and we have websites translated to French, Arabic, English, Spanish also. So I will send you all the links. So I'm sure that guys will not get lost, and in your WhatsApp chat you will send them everything, because I think it will be more comfortable than sharing it in Zoom.
All right, so don't worry, guys. After this meeting, you will get all the information that you need from the website that contains all of the majors and all of the requirements. So don't worry, and you will also get the contact number of Ms. Yanovska or any representatives from Synergy University. Yeah. But for now, while we still have Ms. Yanovska here, is there anyone who wants to ask more questions? Because it's obviously more comfortable to ask directly, right? Rather than figuring out by yourself. Okay, is there anyone who wants to ask more questions?
So by the way, I wanted to ask the question. The
wow.
First time I wanted to ask, because I didn't know that we couldn't talk in the beginning. So about Russia, what actually views do you have about Russia? Maybe I can share some more information, because I know there are some stereotypes like the bears, balalaika, something like that. So what are your expectations of Russia? Like, how do you see it? What are the main things?
Okay, guys, let's ask.
Who is the bravest one?
Okay, can I answer first?
Yes, please.
Okay, from what I know from what social media says about Russia, Russia is like, firstly, so cold, and the people are so brave. Even bears are afraid of Russians. Is that true?
Well, about the brave people, of course, for sure. And about cold, actually, from the point of view of my international students, it can be sometimes, but we have the compensation for that. We have the great advantage. We have the snow. And you can't imagine how many groups are coming to me for winter camps to actually play in the snow. Because we have snow every winter, we have a lot of traditions connected with playing snowballs, going like sledge and something like that. So when they experience this, they stop thinking that it's cold. They are thinking that it's fun.
True, true, true. Once you're accustomed, you cannot leave and you start to love Russia, is it?
Yeah. Well, actually, I can understand about Moscow because I'm from south of Russia. So I was raised by the sea and it was really warm. The lowest temperature is like maybe 12 degrees. And when in Moscow it's -12, you like, it's a little bit strange, but you get used and you enjoy it because you have fun.
Have you ever been to Southeast Asia, Miss?
Not yet, I'm planning.
Like,
I think it can be.
what temperature did you say? 12 temperature, 12, 12.
12, it's during winter. I understand what temperatures will be
It's
there.
already freezing here.
I know.
Okay, guys, is there anyone who wants to ask question? Remember that this is not an everyday opportunity that you can talk to a real Russian, not only about universities or all the serious stuff, but just about the life in Russian and maybe about international students' life in Russian. How is it actually, Miss? Are there many international students from Southeast Asia in Moscow?
Actually, we have, I wouldn't say that the majority of our students is from Southeast. We do have a lot of students from Vietnam, for example. From Indonesia, not as many as I want to. But we are trying to do our best actually to attract the students as well. We have the student councils working, so all our students have very strong network. They visit, like when they just come, we organize some excursions. We show how to have fun in Russia. What can you visit, like Red Square, some very important parks, just the general things. So we trying to make it more comfortable. Like, what app should I download to my phone to use the taxi? What is the most like comfortable, something like that. So we assist with that, and that's why I think that our international students are really excited about Moscow. Because they have the full assistance. I mean, in terms even sometimes our students, they call us and say, hey, I'm in the middle, like 10 p.m. I'm somewhere in the center, and we're like, okay, what do you see? Can you go to your maps and found yourself? And then we are helping, like where to go, what to do. So it's totally fine. Also, we have the support team who is always in touch. And we also organize on university level some meetups with the Russian students. So sometimes it's some kind of like playing games in the park as well, some sports activities. So we do have it also that all our students are involved.
Wow. So, okay. So from the long explanation, what I get is that we will never get bored in Russia. Am I right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we will be assisted. So guys, maybe we usually just think about Europe as in like Germany, France, but we never really consider Russia. But Russia is offering this whole thing. Russia can be fun. Russia has all the cultures and the activities. So it can be a good opportunity for all of you too. Okay, so we have Miss Rinda Sandra raising her hand. You may ask your question, Miss.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rinda, and hi, Miss Anna. I just wanted to share about Russia. I've been there maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's too long. And then, I've been there for working, not for study. I'm working.
Where in Moscow?
No, in Cuman.
Cuman,
yeah. And in Slumbersea Siberian Training Center. Just for training. Yeah, so it's nice place in Russia. And then I've been in Red Square.
Okay.
Just for text picture. And nice place, nice city in Moscow. Just that, nothing else. But yeah, so interesting if I go there for study.
Well, yeah, for sure you should, because Moscow is changing year by year. Well, the thing, the Red Square is the same, but everything around has changed. So yeah, so I will be glad to also welcome you in Moscow.
Yes, thank you. Just that. Thank you, Miss Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Rinda, for your question. Oh, now we have Gabriel Naomi. You may also ask the question.
Thank you, Miss, for the opportunity. Hello,
Good
Miss Anna. I'm
Good
Gabriel from
evening.
Indonesia. I have a question regarding scholarship. Is Synergy University offers scholarship for student? And is there any like student dorm for
Well,
the?
we have always some special offers for like students who have like straight A's or who have some reasons actually. But total scholarships, unfortunately not, because we are private university, so we're not the state one. But we are always ready to find the ways, and we are ready to. That's why I say that we evaluate individually. So we may always have some special offer for you if you plan to study in Synergy.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you so much for your question.
All
It was
right.
the first gentleman of this evening to ask me a question.
Okay. Is there any more gentlemen who wants to ask question? Wow. Oh, if I see here, it's mostly girls who.
Well, it's
are
totally
asking
fine as
questions.
well.
Oh yeah, I also heard about this rumor that Russian girls population is way more than the males. So many people are saying that, wow, Russia has all these beautiful
Well,
girls and they
actually,
don't have boyfriends. Is that true? Maybe our gentlemen here would want to go study in Russia if they know that.
I think we actually why I really glad to see the growth, because the majority of our international students are boys. Maybe they have already heard this thing, but from historical point of view, I think after the World War II, that was such situation when there were less male than female. For now, I think it's almost equal. But if it's good to think that the Russian girls are looking for some, it's okay.
All right. So, okay, guys, now it's confirmed, and it's also from the historical point of view. So not only gossip. So, gentlemen, what are you waiting for? But just like Miss Anna told us, now the number of girls in international students are still a bit low. Yeah. So maybe it's an opportunity for all of us, be the girls from Southeast Asia, to go there to Russia and be an excellent student there. Wow. Wow. Now it's kind of fun to ask you more about Russia. Okay, so maybe before we close the session, all right. Miss Mayasari wants to ask more questions. I like this. I
Yes.
like this curiosity.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Miss Anna. Actually,
Hello
when I meet Miss Anna today, I just interested running Russian. I don't know actually. Sometimes people say Russian is very difficult, right, to learn Russian. But I'm just curious about. Do you have any tip maybe how to learn Russian easier for the foreigners?
Sorry, once again.
Sorry, maybe the connection is unstable. I mean, when I see you tonight, I just interested to learn Russian. So, do you have any tip how to learn Russian for any foreigners? I think it's get easier. Sometimes people say that it's very difficult to learn Russian language.
You mean like by the experience of our international students, it's not very difficult when you visit classes. If you're talking about to try something, we have online programs of Russian language. So some students are willing to start online first to understand how it goes, and only after that come on campus. It's possible as well. We have subtypes of education. So for example, from November start online, and from February come on campus. Some students feel more confident when they start like that. From my experience, the majority of students, they want to come directly to Moscow. They don't want this online, especially after the last 2 years when everyone and everything was online. So when they get understanding that the opportunity to go on campus is close, they choose to do this. But online, yes, for sure, we totally have recorded courses. We have live stream groups. Actually, the next group is starting on the 18th of October. When you're connected live stream, almost each day, like 3 or 4 times per week for 3 hours, and you study with the teacher. and like answer the questions like we do it now and experience Russian language to understand if it's possible to study it. I'm sure it is, but you should to understand, like you should understand it by yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. So would you mind to share the, I think, the websites to learn Russian?
Yes, I will send it as well, because for now, like I will send it also to you. Will have it in your WhatsApp group.
Okay, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Mayasari, for your question. And yeah, don't worry, guys. So after this, Ms. Janovska will send us everything that we need, from the links for the requirements, the links to apply, the links of courses that are being offered in Synergy University, and also the contact number. And also, like you requested, maybe some websites to help us learning Russian language. But is it possible for us to go to Russia without any knowledge in Russian language first? Like, do they provide classes in Synergy University?
Yes. Well, it's possible to go without zero level, because almost all our students, they come with total no background in Russian. About like usually more practical, like how will I survive in Moscow without Russian? I mean, shouldn't worry about it. Everything is also in English language. So if you know English, you are fine. We meet at the airport. We help with dormitories, with everything. So, and within 1 or 2 months, I mean, it's already easier, and you will understand the basic words, everything. You can say hello, how are you, and understand what's going on. So there is no requirement for entrance level of Russian language. Just you need to be willing to study. That's it.
All right, thank you so much, Miss. Okay, is there any more questions? Because if not, I'm gonna wrap up this session, because we already know that Synergy University and also Russia can offer us all of the things, the interesting things. And as we know, we don't need to worry, because we don't need like a certain level for Russian proficiency, right? Because even in zero level, we can already go to Russia, but we just need the will to learn Russia and to be adaptive in Russian culture and environment. And as Miss Anna said, that Russia has all the festivities, the culture, and you will never get bored, but you also will be assisted, so you wouldn't feel lost like all by yourself in this foreign country. No, you wouldn't. So Russia can be a good opportunity for all of you guys who wants to study abroad. Okay, like Miss Maya Sarimana said in the chat box, I am interested to learn Russian now. Thank you, Miss Anna. Wow, Miss Anna, you're an influencer. I think you influence us with things.
No, thank you.
How to say thank you in Russian?
Спасибо.
Спасибо. Спасибо.
Yeah, it's easy. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Okay, спасибо.
That's
all right. Спасибо, Miss Anna. All right, and thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. And now, this is the end for our first session of today's agenda. And on behalf of the committee, we would like to present Miss Anna from Synergy University a certificate for her dedication to be the speaker for today and giving us the insights and the inspiration, and also share to us the life in Russia. Thank you so much once again.
Well, thank you so much. It was nice to see, and I'm really glad to have so much interest and so many cool people in one place who are really interested. And it was a pleasure for me to tell you all this information, and I hope to see you soon.
We hope so too. All right, before we say goodbye to Miss Anna, I would like to invite all of you to turn on your camera, because we will have a photo session with Miss Anna from Synergy University. Come on, people, let's turn on your camera. It's not every day that you can take a picture with Miss Anna. Miss Anna is a very busy woman, I bet. All right. Okay, I can still see some people turning on their cameras. Yeah. Make sure your hijab or your hair is neat, and put that smile on, because we would like to see smiley faces on the picture. Okay, now maybe we can start the photo session. 1,
2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Miss Anna and Synergy University. I hope that any of you guys here can follow the steps of the international students and become an international student in Russia and experience the whole things that Miss Anna have explained to us. Once again, thank you so much, Miss Anna.
Thank you so much, Miss. Thank you.
All right. Now, everyone, before we proceed to the second session, we will have a short break for 5 minutes. So you may stretch your legs, your muscles, your neck, and be prepared to come back stronger and ready as ever to continue our second session. That would be business class and entrepreneurship class. Okay, see you at roughly 9 p.m. West Jakarta time.
The W sits at the top of the grand staircase leading to the heart of the UW Tacoma campus. The Business Administration program was established in 1994 and renamed to the Milgard School of Business in 2003 in recognition of a generous endowment from the Milgard family. The Dugan Building is the home of the Milgard School of Business, including the Dean's Suite, faculty and staff offices, the Advising Suite, the Milgard Success Center, and several classrooms. Many of the buildings you will see on the campus are century-old brick buildings that were built to last by businesses that depended on the railroad in the late 1880s and early 1900s. These buildings have been refurbished to accommodate classrooms, faculty and staff offices, program offices, labs, library, and more. The Snoqualmie Building, one of the most prominent buildings on campus, was built in the late 1800s to harness the power of the 270-foot Snoqualmie Falls. Today, it houses the Teaching and Learning Center, part of the library, and the famous Chihuly Chandelier. The Mattress Factory Building is the current location of many student services, including the Registrar's Office and Financial Aid. TLB is the Tioga Library Building. The third floor is home to the Milgard Center for Business Analytics and the Milgard Center for Leadership and Social Responsibility.
Grammarly can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Prof. Brendan.
Yes.
How are
Hello.
you, Prof?
Yes.
Mbak
We
Dini
can hear you.
Abdurrahman.
Hello, Professor Fleming, Professor Roy. All right, so
Very nice to meet again.
Okay, then if everyone is ready, then our break is officially over. So welcome to the second session of today's agenda. We will have our business class with Professor Brendan F. Fleming from Washington University. So to lift up the spirit, I would like to invite all of you to yell our tagline again before we officially open the second session of today's agenda. All right, like the usual, if I say, who are you? You will say, I'm a leader, you're a leader, we are leaders. Okay, everyone, are you ready? Please turn on your cameras and turn off your mic. Turn on your microphone. All right, let's do it. Who are you?
I am a leader. You are a leader. Yeah, leader.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we already have Professor Fleming and Professor Roy Darmawan here. Welcome. And before we proceed to our second session, we'll have an opening speech by Professor Roy Darmawan. So to Professor Roy, please deliver your speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night and very good morning for Professor Brendan Fleming. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Our honorable resources person for the Europe and American Conference and Exchange Program, organizer and participant of the Europe and American Conference and Exchange Program, brother and sister. Technology cannot be dreamed and broke in just like that. Not like buying an item in supermarket. Maybe once or two technology can be bought, but do not reach the technological society and the knowledge society. To become a nation that masters science and technology, we need to place innovation as the lifeblood of our nation, where we must able to become of innovation nation, a home for creativity and innovative human. Professor Brendan Fleming, very nice can meet you again in the Zoom. I think we met more than 8 years ago, also with Mbak Dini Hajarahma. Now Mbak Dini Hajarahma is also lecturer in School of Business Institute Teknologi Bandung. Mbak Dini always says that she become very great through the guidance of Professor Brendan Fleming. We meet in University of Indonesia of Rectorate building and also in Wisma BNI 42 floor, if I'm not false, and very happy and very blessing we can learn from Prof. Brendan. And also thank you very much because in Washington now 7 a.m. very morning in America, but Professor Brendan give him to us. Brother and sister, a famous rice singer also created the title song. The lyric are very famous. Keep being a star in the sky so that your light can shine on his word. Orang Indonesia tahu, Bro. Tetaplah menjadi bintang di langit agar sinarmu bisa menerangi alam ini. Brother and sister, talking about innovation can be separate from talking about big vision, and we will discuss in two countries, namely the United States and Japan, where the language is very popular. In United States, once lived a great stateswoman named Helen Keller. Helen Keller was blind and deaf since she was jailed. Helen Keller was one asked Helen, what is worse than being blind? Yeah. apa yang lebih buruk daripada dilahirkan buta. Helen not hard, especially Helen says that the worst than a blind is have eye but no have a vision. So we hope can broaden our vision through explanation of perspective of Professor Brandon Fleming, and we hope can develop our vision and mindset through the explanation of Professor Fleming. Brother and sister, the greatest danger of crisis is not the crisis itself, but use yesterday logic. So we need to learn about not learning from the past, but learning from the future is the learning from imagination. Good night and thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Om Santi, Santi, Santi. Om Namo Buddhaya. Shalom dan salam kebajikan. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for the introduction. And can you see my screen?
Yes, but firstly, I would like to read your short profile first, Professor Fleming. Is it okay?
Yes.
All right. Firstly, thank you so much, Professor Roy, for the great, brief but great short speech. And just like you said, even though other people have harder life than us, like for example, being born blind, but the most important thing is that we have the will to improve ourselves. And one of the ways to improve ourselves is just like what everyone in this Zoom meeting are doing right now, want to improve themselves to be better and learn from the experts, just like our own Professor Brendan Fleming today. So everyone, we will have an entrepreneurship and business innovation class with Professor Brendan Fleming. He is a lecturer at Washington University, Milgard School of Business. He is also a president and founder of Portico Care Incorporated. He is leading software development and commercialization at Portico Care Incorporated, a health data management company creating platforms for patients to manage their health data. And he has also applied accounting strategies and sociology frameworks to prescribe strategies in startup in the Pacific Northwest and Southeast Asia. He has also collaborated with and mentored 100 plus entrepreneurs on topics of strategy, product development, business models, idea validation, innovation assessment, intellectual property, and career development using economic and strategic theories. So now we have this great Professor Brendan Fleming, who is a very comprehensive professor. He seems to know everything and has experience at everything. So make sure that you wouldn't waste this opportunity and pay attention to what will he say to us. Okay, so please welcome Professor Brendan Fleming.
Thank you very much. So what I wanted to do is spend a couple minutes just introducing myself, give you a little bit more background on what I'm doing. As you saw, I am a professor, but I'm also running I'm on my second startup that I have run. So that's what I'm working on. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. Then I'm gonna talk about how you create a business case. And in particular, how do you make the business case when it comes to ideation, innovation, and market exploration. And so then we'll end with some Q&A. So a little bit about me. My previous work experience, I worked at a plastic injection molding company. Then I worked at Development and Transition Research Think Tank at the University of Michigan. And then I have my PhD from the University of Washington, Foster School of Business. And in particular, I studied entrepreneurs and startups. And so that was my focus of study was entrepreneurs. And so that was my dissertation, was studying entrepreneurship. And what I'm doing now is, in particular, what I'm working on now is a startup that's related to health data. But before that, I was running a startup for about 1.5 years that was in cancer diagnostics. So we have one of the leading cancer research companies in the, centers in the world, for the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. And they had developed technology that had been converted into patents and then needed a company built around that technology. So I led the building of the company, the startup that would exploit the diagnostic tools that were developed at Fred Hutch. And the diagnostic tools that they were working on were related to leukemia and bone marrow transplantation as a treatment for leukemia. And so they were the diagnostics that they were working on related to whether or not the leukemia treatment, the bone marrow transplant was successful. And we had to work with pieces of scientific equipment and develop software to connect with those pieces of equipment that would manage the testing workflow. So that's what I did. And I built the team. I brought on a chief technology officer. I brought on software developers, and we started to develop the software package that would be part of that diagnostic tool. I left that company to start my own company with some of my former team members. And right now we're working on a startup that's related to health data for pregnant and new mothers. So in particular, how you manage all the health data and information and connect to your social network and connect to your doctors and share medical information across those different pathways. So that's what we're working on right now. And we're like 2.5 months in on that startup. And it's a software as a service startup. So that's my background. And in particular, when I look at ways that I can help you and the ways that I've been helpful for other entrepreneurs is in providing guidance and mentorship. But usually it's about asking the questions that help you understand what are the big holes in your business that you have to address when it comes to building out your company. And having interviewed a number of startups in Indonesia, it's amazing how much entrepreneurial spirit there is and so much opportunity to develop businesses in Indonesia, given that there are a lot of structural opportunities, in particular, when it comes to software in platforms. I remember interviewing Bukalapak and Tokopedia and how they're exploring e-commerce in Indonesia and the increase in demand for travel. All those create lots of opportunities for startups in Indonesia. So as you start to work on your business plan, I can start to help provide you some guidance on that. So when I look at the key to any startup, and in particular in the US, the way we think about it is what's the value proposition and what's the core business case, right? And for the most part, we're using the lean canvas, which I'll show you in a moment, to model our thinking when it comes to ideation. Ideation means looking at all our different possible ideas and how we could possibly create new businesses from those ideas. And so we use the lean canvas framework. So I'm going to talk about that. We also do customer discovery. So we do a lot of observation. So we study the customers to see what are the key pain points that they have. And then how do we create offerings that will address those key pain points? And I'll give you some examples of that. And ultimately, there are 3 steps. You have to assess the market and the customer. You have to define the business model by which you're going to create the value for the customer. And then you have to show what your unique value is, right? And so when we think about that first step, which is how big is the market? For a startup, you have to determine, is there enough of a market there for you to cover the business operations? If there isn't enough demand or if the market isn't large enough, then it's not worth your time because you'll run out of money quickly. And so that we're always paying attention to how are we looking at the size of the market opportunity, and if it's large enough for us to operate. If it isn't large enough, then we pivot to other markets. So that's how we start the process. So when we do opportunity recognition, the steps are assess the market, define the business model, and then create unique value. So what do I mean by market assessment? So in a big company, we start by thinking about what's the total addressable market? What's the universe that we're operating in? So in my startup, we were in cancer treatment and diagnostics. That was our total market, right? And there might be $15 or $20 billion spent across the whole world on cancer diagnostics and treatment. But our service available market, which is the segment that we're focusing on, was primarily just diagnostics. And so here we're looking at, what types of diagnostic tools we have for either detecting whether you have cancer or whether the cancer is recurring or whether you're recovering from cancer. then ultimately what part of that market we're going to have. So a big company thinks about what's the total market that they're involved in, what's the sector that they're involved in, and what percentage of that market they're going to have. And if that percentage isn't large enough, they're not going to be interested. When we look at an example here, so we think about servers. Servers are the computers that we access when we go on the cloud, or maybe we're at work or at school and we're checking our email. Servers are the computers that sit usually in one room on campus, and all of our email and our content is stored on them. And so when we look at the whole server market, right, and remember, servers are used in the cloud platforms. So Amazon, Microsoft, Azure, all of those, Google Cloud have these huge farms of servers that basically store our content. So the total market for purchasing server computers is about $50 billion. Now, of that market, there are servers that small businesses use, and you can also think about other institutions that might need a very small server, right? They're called razor blade or pizza box servers. And that market's about 2 billion. So it's a much smaller market of the whole market, and that's the served available market for those small servers. And if you're a company and you want to manufacture servers and you're expecting that you can get a 10% market share, well, then that's a $200 million business on an annual basis. And so the company has to ask, is that large enough for me to want to be involved in? Now, when we pivot to the startup vision is very different, right? So it starts from the same premise, which is we're looking at the total addressable market that we're focusing on, then the served available market, what's the sector that we're involved in, and then the final addressable market. And as I said, with my startup, we could think about all the money that's spent on cancer and diagnostics, then we can look at specifically diagnostics, and then we're looking at a very much smaller segment, which is cancer diagnostics for leukemia patients that get bone marrow transplants. And then the question is that small opportunity at the end. When we ran the numbers, we were looking at a $5 to $10 million opportunity, and just in the US. For us, that was more than enough. But maybe for a large company, it's not enough. And this is what happens, is big companies will avoid these small markets because they're not large enough for them as given their size, right? Whereas startups can say, with an opportunity that's $1 to $5 million is good enough for us to justify entering the business. So that's what we talk about, is we have to determine that final addressable market, that segment that we're going after, is large enough that we could be profitable. And for startups, that can be a much smaller number than a large company. And that's why there are so many opportunities, because the big companies avoid these small opportunities, right, that startups then can attack and go after. But still, you have to find if the final addressable market is too small, maybe a $15,000 or $20,000 annual opportunity, that's not enough, because you're not going to get that right away. So you want a final addressable market that's large enough to justify your effort, that eventually you can capture. So that's the first step, is assessing the market. And you usually use available data resources, publications that talk about the industry, and they start to estimate the total market for each of these opportunities. You can think about like e-commerce in Indonesia. Is there enough opportunity to support two big companies, Bukalapak and Tokopedia? Well, it seems to be it's very large, right? And there's lots of other smaller e-commerce platforms. And so what you think about is, if the market is large enough, then there can be lots of players, right? Or if it's small enough that the big companies are avoiding, it's big enough for you as a startup. And so this is the question that most venture capitalists ask is, what's the size of the opportunity? And they'll use this type of framework to explain it. And so when we think about that target market, right, what is my estimate of that market? Is it the number of people who are buying new shoes? Is it the number of people who are ordering music, songs, and downloading, right? So what is the number that you're using, and who is the most likely going to be the buyer of my services? So you think about, how big is my universe? How many customers can I reach with my sales channel to give them the resources I have? And who will likely be my customer? And you can start to use this information to sort of calculate what we call a back of the envelope estimate of our target market. So say you have 10 salespeople and they can do 5 calls a day, right? So that's 10 times 5, and how many days a week they're going to make calls. And you can start to do the math to figure out how many calls they can make, but how many of them will convert, right? What percentage of those calls will convert to sales? And this is another way that you can estimate the market size of what you're going after and then calculate your potential revenue. And this is something that investors really care about a lot, which is what's your potential revenue? Do you have monthly recurring revenue? And how did you estimate your revenue growth pattern? And you can use these tools to do that. So once you've explored your the market, right? How big the market is, the next question is, what's your business model? And the business model platform that I like is the Lean Canvas. So it's available on leanstack.com. And it's for free, and you can edit and update this one-page business model or business plan. And the beauty of this is that you can, it's one page, right? You can iterate and improve and adjust it over time. But the idea is it maps the key parts of the business model in one page. And the way it works is you start with the customer segments and the problems of those customer segments, and then you work in. And it's very intentional that that's where you want to start, because that's about customer observation. So when we were working on our current startup, which has to do with health data and access to health data. So when you go see the doctor, you usually get paper or digital copies of your records, and maybe they did a test or two to assess what's going on with you. And so you have all this health information, but it's very hard to make sense of. And so we started looking at segments of customers for which data management or health data is particularly important. And we targeted new mothers that are pregnant, and mothers who recently had babies, because they tend to be they have lots of appointments, lots of tests to assess whether or not the pregnancy is going to term well. And they're also avidly looking at that data, trying to make sense of it. So when we started interviewing pregnant mothers and recent mothers, we started seeing different patterns of behavior, different types of customers. So we saw mothers that were constantly reading up on the internet and learning about their pregnancy, trying to manage the pregnancy as much as possible, constant communication with their doctor, always wanted to understand what the test results meant, right? So that was one type of pregnant mother. And then the other types that we see are more passive, meaning that they're less likely to be doing a lot of research on the internet, less likely to be waiting for the next test result to come in and make sense of it. So that ended up meaning that we had two different customer segments that we wanted to look at. And particularly, we want to look at the customer segment that was more active. So when we started interviewing the pregnant mothers who were really aggressive when it came to managing the data around the pregnancy and interacting and learning about how to be healthy, we saw 2 to 3 problems. One problem is that they would see lots of different doctors, and those doctors would not talk to each other. So they would be communicating information from one doctor to another, whether it was their obstetrician, their nutritionist, whatever it was. And so they had a problem of communication. Another problem that they had was understanding the different medical terms that were being used to describe either the test or the test results or what the doctor was saying. So they didn't understand the medical language. And so these were the 2 main problems that we saw. And so as we started thinking about, well, what could we do, is we could create a platform whereby you could upload images or PDF or text versions of your patient records and store them in one place. And then using machine learning and artificial intelligence, read those documents and identify the key terms that are being used by the medical practice in those documents, and then connect those to resources that can give you further reading on them. So that was one unique value proposition, is we are a platform that connects all of these different pieces of information in one place. The other is that the records are portable, that you can store them on your phone, and then you can share them with family members, such as if you're sharing an ultrasound of the baby, you could share those through other platforms. So as we started thinking about it, we worked from the outside in, and we're working with customer segments, interviewing them, studying them, identifying their problems, figuring out what would be the features that would start to address their key problems, and then what is a unique, compelling reason to exist. In our case, it's a single platform for the mother. And then you start to working to the other parts, such as what are the channels by which you're going to reach pregnant mothers? What are the key metrics for how well your business is doing? Monthly recurring revenue, how long they use the app, frequency of using the app. What is the unfair advantage that you've got? So we have a number of doctors and researchers related to health data that we can create added value. And then how are we going to monetize it? So we look at the revenue streams. Here we're looking at, it's a freemium, meaning that it's a free, but if you want to have additional features, then you have to pay. So, it starts out that you're trying to get lots of users who will use the platform for free, and then convert some of those to the premium version with premium features. And then what is your cost structure? We're a software as a service business. So software service as a service businesses have a fairly standard structure, a software development costs, equipment costs related to software development, all of those, but you can map all of them onto this one pager. And when we think about, when I work with startups, this is usually how we communicate about the startup is, let's have you do your one pager and go through your lean canvas. And then once you populate it, then we can start interacting with it and seeing what are your assumptions and what may or may not be working. So going back to unique value proposition, the key to coming up with a good value proposition for a customer is understanding them, right? So doing user observation. So often recording and studying the customer while they're using the product or service. So everyone's familiar with Starbucks. Starbucks is a local company here in Washington, and they spend a lot of time doing customer research and observation. So in every store that they own, they have video cameras that study, the buying patterns of customers. They're looking for the behavior they don't want, which is customers getting in line and then leaving because the line is too long. So they do a lot of work on designing so that people go through the lines quickly. And so they do a lot of customer observation, and they understand the different types of customers that they have and at different times of the day. And so that's the job of an entrepreneur, is to get to know your customer and to study what is important to them, what are the pain points you observe, and what are the pain points that they talk about. And then you map their pains and what are the gains, what are they trying to do? So when you look at people standing in line for coffee, not everyone is working for the same goal. So some people are in line because they're getting coffee because they need the caffeine to be up for work. Some people are in line to buy coffee for others who are in a meeting or event. Some are there to buy food. So everyone has usually if you look at that line of customers at Starbucks, they have a different reason for being there, which also means that they have different pains and possible gains that they're trying to solve by waiting in line. So you have to connect your offering to the pains of the customer, right? So as I work through my current startup, we are trying to study the customers. We are conducting interviews with pregnant mothers and recent mothers to identify what are their top problems, and then observe how they, navigate all the data sources that they have when it comes to being a pregnant mother, from all the test results that they get to all the paperwork that they get from all the doctors and nurses that they see along the way through the pregnancy. And then how are they managing it today? What are the problems that they have? And then how can we create an offering that negates or eliminates some of those problems? And so that's how we work startups here. And when I work with startups in Seattle in particular, I always first ask, well, who's your customer segment? Have you done user discovery and user research? What are their key pain points? And how are you addressing those key pain points? That's usually how I start out in my discussion with their business model. And so once you complete a draft of this, you can continue to iterate and update it. And I would encourage you to go to leanstack.com and set up an account, and then it's free. And you can start modeling your different business plans. And the author of that website also has lots of great material. So when we look at studying the customer, right? We talk about the AEIOU activities. What are the things that they're doing, right, or engaging in? So people standing in line is an activity, right? And the goal of that activity is to get your coffee at the end. Why are, in our case with our startup, why are pregnant women, going online and reading about different medical terms and stuff? It's because they're trying to understand what their test results mean, right? Because they want to have power over their pregnancy and the health of their pregnancy, and they want to have a healthy baby, right? And so what are the different environments in which they are interacting with all of their health record when it comes to the pregnancy? So it's the, being in the doctor's office, is one environment. At family's house, where they're talking about, their medical results with their mother or their parents. It's at their home when they're talking about it when they're with their spouse about, what they found out from the doctor, right? And they're communicating. So there are different environments in which they're operating. Who are they interacting with? So we see that they interact with doctors, they interact with a host of doctors. There's the obstetrician, who's the specialist. There's the general practitioner, there's the nurse practitioner. There are all the other entities that are involved that they interact with at the hospital. But then at home, they interact with their spouse, they interact with their parents, right, as they're communicating information. And what are the objects, right? So the things that they use, well, they use their smartphone, they use their laptop, right? Some women have like a folder where they store all of their medical records to try and organize things, right? So these are the artifacts that they're working with. And in one way or another, who is using all of this information? We know the doctors are using the record, but also the patient themselves, the mother-to-be, is using the record. And when they're sharing those records with others. So we can use the AEIOU as a way of organizing our thinking when it comes to studying the customer. And then we look at, the relationship that every customer has in the customer value chain. And where are there points in this value chain where there could be breaks, right? And in particular, we know that search is a major problem for pregnant mothers when it comes to reading up on medical terms and understanding how well their pregnancy is going. But for any process for any relationship a customer has with a product or service, there's this connection of events, right? And so what we look for is, are there breaks in this chain that could be opportunities for business? Are we paying attention to all of the links to make sure that we're assessing that, the value chain is healthy? And if it isn't healthy, what you have is a breakdown in consumption. So an example of a big company, Boeing makes aircraft, right? Maybe not the most reliable aircraft all the time, but in Airbus, they make aircraft. And what happens is they discovered that airlines weren't buying aircraft. There was a decline in demand. And when they studied it, the reality was that the business model for airlines was that they operated at very thin margins. And so they couldn't finance the purchase of aircraft. So what happened was Boeing and Airbus created their own credit agency to finance aircraft purchases. So now they not only manufacture, but they also finance the purchase of aircraft by the airlines. And so once they added that element of financing to the value chain, it started going again, right? And so oftentimes when you see a decline in demand, it's because one of these links breaks, right? In Boeing and Airbus's case, it was the financing of aircraft. The airlines couldn't afford the aircraft, although they needed them. And so they became the self-financers for the aircraft or for the airline industry. So when we look at hassle maps, so what we look at is the whole process from the perspective of the customer. So when we look at movie rentals in the United States before Netflix and streaming content, right? In the United States, you would have to, 15, 20 years ago, you would go to a movie rental place where they had lots of DVDs or VHS cassettes on the wall. And you'd have to drive to the store and you'd have to wander the aisles looking for the movie that you wanted, right? And the reality is that the really popular movies were not available. They were sold out. So you had to continue to look until you found something to watch. But what happens is that you had 5 days to watch the movie and then you had to return it, or you pay a late fee. So this was the process. There was a lot of complexity to trying to find a movie to watch. You had to drive there and you had to drive back. You had to search and identify movies. Oftentimes you got movies that you didn't want to watch because the popular movies were out, and you ended up paying late fees. So this was the value chain from the perspective of the consumer of movie rentals before Netflix. So what happened with Netflix is they said, okay, well, there's got to be an easier way. So they came up with a mail delivery model where you didn't have to drive to the movie rental store. You went online to a website and you created a list of movies that you wanted. And then as they became available, they would mail them to you. And so now you don't have to drive. Now if you want the movie you want, you can just wait until it gets mailed to you, right? And when you're done with it, you return it in the mail, and there were no late fees. You only could have 1 or 2 movies out at a time, and so you would mail your movie in, and then eventually your next movie would come in, but you would never have to pay late fees. So this created enormous value for the customer. And they went beyond that, of course. Now we have online streaming content where they actually are creating content and filling in more holes, right? Because you go to the movie rental store and they didn't have the movie of the style that you wanted. Now they're creating that content. So this is what we do with startups, is we look at, from the perspective of the customer, what are all of the different steps in the process to using and consuming the product or service. And our job is to reduce the steps and the complexity. And when we do that, the customers reward us by shopping at our store, buying our products and services, and preferring our products and services over the competition. And so when we work with startups, in particular, when we're trying to study opportunity recognition, right? The first step is that they have to find a market large enough to interest our key stakeholders, whether it's our employees, ourselves, or anyone else who's supporting our startup, right? So that's the first step, is the market large enough to support a business that helps all of our stakeholders be successful? Then what is the business model that fits, right? So when we look at, looking at the customer and the segments, and then the pain points, and then what's the offering, and what is our unique value proposition, and how we're going to make money from it using Lean Canvas, right? So we work on creating a model that fits for the startup and for the customer. And then lastly, have we connected our unique value proposition, the reason why we exist, to the needs of our target customer? In the case of Netflix, right, their value proposition is you don't have to drive, you don't have to pay late fees, right? And you can be at home and the movies will be delivered to you. And then when you're done with it, you put it in the mail. So that was a very simple, powerful value proposition. And so that drove high demand for Netflix here in the United States. So that's the process that we work through with startups here when I'm teaching and mentoring startups in the Pacific Northwest. And I've also, and I'll give you the PowerPoint deck, so you have this PowerPoint deck. I want to show you a few things in the deck before I go to questions. There's hyperlinks. So there's a hyperlink to a great video on how you study demand. So I definitely would recommend watching that. So that's a great link. Another link in the PowerPoint, let me go earlier. So the business model canvas, this is also another embedded link. So if you go here and you open this link, it's going to take you to Lean Stack, right? And I would definitely recommend, if you're an entrepreneur, you're interested in it, download the PowerPoint and access this. You can get started, it's free. And it allows you to edit, and they have a digital version of this that you can edit and share with your team. So when I'm teaching an entrepreneurship class right now, I have all my students, I put them in teams and they've logged in and they created a Lean Canvas that they're interacting with and editing. And there's lots of free teaching courses and content in it once you sign up that I totally recommend you explore. Let me see if I can pull up mine real quick. I know I want to give you some an opportunity to, I'm going to go to my company's Lean Stack, right? So I can sign in real quick, and I can show you what it looks like on your side. So here, free courses, right? So you can go through the foundations course, like I've done with my team. You can create a lean canvas, right? And in our case, we have multiple lean canvases that we're starting to edit. So we have more than one, that we're working on. You can see we're editing those. But there's great, so all these are like walkthrough courses, but this is, again, it's free. So I totally recommend it. There is a pay-for version that you can wait on until you have revenue, and it's $99 a month for a team up to 10 members, but you don't need to pay for it. You can access a lot of this content for free. And then going back to, I think, another great hyperlink I've got here that you can access when I send Roy the PowerPoint, right, to share. Right, this is a video Osterweiler, who created the business model canvas, originally walks through how you map pains to gains and create value propositions for your customers. So there's some additional information that's embedded in this slide deck that you can use. So yeah, but that's a quick synopsis of where I start when I'm teaching and working with entrepreneurs. And you'll have the slide deck. I'll send that to you, Roy, right after the call so that you can share it with everyone. But I know I was looking at the schedule. We needed to save enough time for you to ask questions. So go ahead and use the chat or however you want to interact with me to ask questions. And I can answer any questions that you've got. I've studied entrepreneurship both in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, of course, Singapore, and to some extent Vietnam. I've interviewed the people at East Ventures, famous venture capitalists there in Southeast Asia, as well as working with ventures here in the Pacific Northwest. So what questions can I answer, or what questions do you have related to entrepreneurship that I could answer?
All right, thank you so much for this superb presentation, Professor Fleming. And it's really great to see you in the morning with this much energy, and our friends here in Southeast Asia already almost 10 p.m. now, Indonesian West time, but all of us are very, very energetic and excited for this whole presentation. Okay, so we already have several people raising their hands. First, to Ms. Nurul Inayah, you may ask your question.
Okay. All right, thank you for the opportunity and nice presentation. So actually, I'm very interested when you mentioned that you decide to make your own company, because these days many people want to make their own company but too afraid to start. So would you like to share to us what's your motivation to make your own company, and how to make yourself believe that you can make your own company? Thank you.
Yeah, so we talk about, there are three things that tend to happen when you become an entrepreneur. You observe something that is a problem, right? You either personally observe it or you see someone else has a problem, right? And then you are motivated, you have some type of motivation to solve that problem, right? Meaning that either it's a problem that it's hurting your family, or it's hurting a friend, or you personally want to do something about it. And then you narrow it down to something that's really focused that you can handle, right? So you don't start with, e-commerce for hundreds of millions of people. We start with e-commerce, maybe with my small friends, friend and friend network, right? So we start small. So those are the three things, the three ingredients that lead people to become entrepreneurs, which is you observe something, right? Or you see something as a problem, then you are motivated to do something about it, and then you focus on something small. And that's how you get over the inertia. Is if you do something small, it's not as risky, right? And so that's for us, right? When we were sitting down with the startup ideas, like, well, what would be a small focused thing that we could do for the larger problem? So health data is a huge problem, right? How you manage your health data, how you have access to your health data, medical records, that is a huge global problem, right? And it's a problem for doctors and it's a problem for patients. And we can't grab that, the whole world, but we could focus on a very narrow slice of our friends, because we had friends who were pregnant who were talking about this problem. So, well, this is something small that we could focus on. And so that helps overcome the fear is, oh, just take something small and focus on it, like my small friends group, small problems, right? And then later build to the larger problem. So that's how that's how I did it, right? I can't solve all of the health data problem, but I could focus on pregnant mothers, and that's what we're focusing on. It's smaller, right? But I was motivated too, and I saw the problem. So those are the three things that we know. Those are the common patterns for how people become entrepreneurs. They observe a problem, they're motivated to solve it, and then they tackle a small part of it, right? And that's the recipe. So pick something. If you see a problem, great. If you're motivated to fix it, great. Then the next step is find a small piece of it that you start to play with, right? And then you can later work up to the big problem, and then it's less scary. I know I've got questions in the chat. I don't know. I'll let you moderate which ones you want me to respond to.
Okay, so Miss Nurul Inayah.
Thank you for the answer, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm also motivated now.
Sorry, I couldn't catch that. What did you say? The last part?
I'm also motivated now to start solve some problem and for the smaller and then back to the large problem.
Yeah, start small and then work to a bigger problem.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nurul Inayah, for the question. And actually, I want to add a bit to her question, Professor. So we should start small for the problem, right? But how about the consumer target? Should we make it specific too? Or can we target a lot of people?
So if you go back to the, let me go back to the, this model here, right? So you can have the whole world as your total addressable market, right? And then of that, you might say, oh, I'm just going to focus on Jakarta as your service available market, right? And then when Jakarta, I'm only going to focus on commuters that commute for more than an hour each way to and from work, right? That's my target market, right? But eventually I might want to work my way up to the larger market, right? And so you always talk about the larger market, like the hundreds or millions of people, right? In terms of the broader market. But then, when you're starting, you have to start somewhere, right? And so that's how we orient it. So you want to keep that knowledge of the larger market and the segments. And then what you want to show is a story of how I'm going to start here and I'm going to work my way up, right? And that way you're not abandoning the larger market. You're actually connected to the larger market. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, so the tip from you is start with something small, but be mindful of and be connected with the bigger problem or the bigger market for everything.
And show your pathway to that larger market.
Yes. Wow. Thank you very much, Professor. Now I would like to read the question in the chat box first. So there is this question from Miss Auliatul Muslimah. Thank you, Professor Brandon, for the nice presentation. So my question is how to maintain the stability of our business development in this current era, especially with the increasing number of business competitors that are increasing from time to time, especially for new entrepreneurs.
So, at the core of this is, I think embedded in the era is the era of COVID, right? Which we know now is not going to go away, right? It's going to be a persistent, this isn't a temporary, this is a permanent state of being that will be living with COVID for years to come, right? Just as we lived with polio for years to come and we've lived with malaria and others, right? This is a disease or a vector that will consistently impact, right? But the nature of the impact will change over time and hopefully lessen. Now, beyond that, right, we know that the other way we can think about the era is the era of digital and now more and more remote work, right? So that digital and remote work also is a reflection of the impact of COVID, but also the nature of work is changing. So to some extent, that makes it easier to start a company because you don't need to locate anywhere. You can start the company from home. And so that's why we see more startups right now. We know historically there are more startups during financial crises in general because people lose their jobs or there's a change in their job situation and they have the motivation to start their own company. So that's just a product of the time period. So when it comes to the stability part, the way you create stable companies is by developing relationships with the customers so that they keep a stable relationship with you, right? So building relationships with your customers keeps your business stable. And so how do you build relationships with customers? Well, getting to know them and studying them and making them happy, right? So a focus on solving their problems and an absolute focus on that. And then, of course, making sure that you have a good business model that you can be profitable serving your customers. So the idea, one thing I didn't talk about today is cash flow analysis. So when we think about stability in startups, most people go to, is there stability in the cash flow? Meaning that can you continue to pay your bills? Can you continue to pay payroll for your employees? Can you meet your promises to the customer and still have enough cash in the bank to pay everyone and to pay all your costs, right? And so when we do cash flow analysis, we look at, okay, how do we generate monthly recurring revenue? Because that is a sign of stability, financial stability in the company. And so that's something that, frankly, I never worked with the startups in Indonesia to see how they do cash flow analysis, right? And how they're managing their cash flow. But at a basic level, we all can kind of understand how do we manage our own personal finances and our own personal cash flow. The company is a much more complicated version of that. And so when we're trying to understand the stability of the company, we look at the cash flow patterns and making sure that we're making good decisions so that the cash flow is consistent and we can reliably make our payments on our costs, pay our payroll, and so on. And if it's not stable, what's causing the instability? Is it because we're losing customers or having customer churn? Is it because we're paying too much for certain components and so on, right? And again, remote work has reduced overhead. So companies are paying less in rent because they have less people in the facilities, right? And so they're reducing their costs. For a startup, you can also start up out of your home and do remote work. And you can also do software development out of home. So you can reduce your overhead. That also has led to more companies coming in, but they're not doing always a good job of managing their cash flow. So this is a whole nother topic. But when I think of stability in my startup, I'm looking at my cash flow, right? And I'm looking at how my relationships are with my customers. And if I'm managing those well, my cash flow is healthy and I'm stable and I'm going to be more reliable than the competition. So then that helps me in defeating the competition. So I hope that helps answering the question.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Fleming, for the great answer. Okay, so the key is to cash flow and also customer service. So as employers, we have to be observant and identify the problems that may disturb the stability of our own business, right? All right, so now we still have several people raising their hands. So Miss Anna Ashley, you may ask your question.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Firstly, I would like to say thank you very much for the presentation. This is the great presentation about entrepreneur. As we know that you will never get your courage for taking this opportunity being the entrepreneurship before you take a dream and you making a plan and you take a key for the success. And we know that before you take a key for the success, you will have several or maybe a lot of problem that you face, a part of the predictable problem that you have written down in the Canva. You will face many problems that are unpredictable too. So being an entrepreneur, my question is, being an entrepreneur, how is your talk when you have unpredictable problem that can be impact on your financial crisis or crisis, unstable or stable, especially if you have employee in your what is it, employment? Yeah, that's my question. Can you get my question?
Yes, I did. So one of the topics that I talk about, and it's easier if I can show a visual of it, is the 4 boxes of knowing. Let me see if I can find that graphic so I can share that with you. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So it's this graphic right here. So in entrepreneurship, we have this problem. Let me see if I can blow this up. If I can get it. And just copy it and then get a blank page presentation. It'll be easier if I just show you what I'm talking about. So we talk about in everything, there is what you know, right? You know, I know that pregnant mothers are having trouble accessing their data, right? And they have these challenges. What you know, you don't know, which is I don't know what other challenges they have, or I don't know what other technologies they're using, right? And then there's what you don't know, which are the surprises. It's like, oh, we didn't know this. We just discovered it, right? And then there's the last box. This one is probably the most dangerous, is what you know but is wrong, right? It's an assumption that turns out to be false. And so in every startup, you're working through these 4 boxes. And they're more often not going to be different problems, right? So in my last startup, you know, what I thought I knew that was wrong was completely a surprise to me, right? And I can, for my next startup, try to, you know, plan for it, but I'll probably have a totally different problem that I never encountered, never anticipated, right? So as an entrepreneur, you're working through these 4 boxes, and they're just the reality. There is going to be stuff that you know, right? That's your skill and your background and your experience. There's going to be stuff that you can sort of figure out that you don't know don't know yet that you need to know. And then there's always going to be new information that comes in that's going to surprise you, that's going to say, oh, you didn't know that you didn't know this, right? But it's important. But I think the most dangerous one is the stuff that you think you know but is wrong, right? Because that has the most painful often impacts on a startup, because you're making statements to customers, you're making statements to your employees based on wrong information. And so they can impact your integrity and other things. As long as you're transparent and say, you know what, I told you this, but I was wrong, right? You know, that's the thing that you have to get good at, is when you encounter these things that you were wrong about, being honest with them. And I think as I work with my mentor, and as I work on my second startup, it's like you work through these, you know, through life like this, but you work through in a startup like this. And it's really critical to be transparent to your employees, to your investors, to your board members, to your customers, when you fall into this box here, which is when you tell them something and it turns out to be wrong, and you're transparent about how that happened, right? Everybody expects that you're going to be working through these other 3 boxes, and that's just a part of, like, you know, the surprises, what you know, what you don't know that you don't know, right? Those come in, and then you move them into, okay, now that I don't know it, right? I can now have a plan for how do I get more information, and so on. And you're moving the boxes through, but being very careful about, you know, how you handle that wrong box, right? And so that's the nature of entrepreneurship. Every startup is going to have different problems. You're not going to, more often than not, there aren't consistent problems, except for in the chat, there is a special case. Family businesses tend to have fairly consistent types of problems, very much like what Mohammed has talked about. And this is why in my company, in our employee handbook, we do not hire direct family relatives, right? It's just to keep those problems out of it. Having worked in a family business and being part of it, that is a fairly known, consistent pattern of issues in family business. But for the most part, right, you might be doing a software as a service business A and B, but they're going to have different problems. You're going to have different people employed there. You're going to have different customers. You're going to have different circumstances, and that's just part of life, right? And you're just trying to work through the information in that environment and try not to make too many mistakes in this wrong box. But again, you're going to make those mistakes, and that's just a reality. We are not perfect creatures, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Anna, for your question. And it's a very interesting answer because, yeah, the wrong thing that we think is right can sabotage us from inside. And it's really important, I guess. And Professor, it's actually time, but would you mind to answer the rest of the questions, or should we end?
Sure. Yeah, I have time.
Okay. Okay, so I will go to the chat box first. This is related to what you have mentioned. From Muhammad Fatih Aska, he asked, okay, thank you, Professor. I have a question. I have a family-run business. So sometimes it's very difficult to navigate the challenges and the approaches that we use to have for non-family business. May not be applicable here. For example, I'm not comfortable for punishing my own uncle for being late at work or missed deadlines. So how to be professional in a family-run business without hurting our family relationship? Thank you, Professor.
So my family had a 30-plus-year-old plastic injection molding company. So I told you one of my first work experiences was in that company. And the family was extremely problematic. Many of the same issues that Mohammed brought up here were present. And the reality is that it's not that businesses don't have emotions. People can be emotionally connected to your company, and you can feel a part of the company, right? But those are different emotions than the emotions that we have towards family members per se, right? And so when you're merging those two sets of emotions, you get these issues. So for instance, how do you provide oversight on an older family member, right, that you're supposed to be managing, right? So then you have the age disparity, and you're supposed to be deferential to older family members, but they're reporting to you and you're their boss, right? And you're supposed to evaluate them frankly, right? And now you're crossing lines here, and you're starting to run into conflict between different norms of behavior. The norms of business, which is to evaluate people accurately for the work that they do, and the norm of deferential treatment to an elderly family member, right? And then you can have all other types of conflicting sort of like moralities or rules of behavior. And so the only companies that manage this well basically say that the family ends at the door of the business, and there are rigid rules and they're going to be held accountable, right? But very few companies can do that, frankly. And usually it's a patriarch or a matriarch who runs the company, who imposes this will and makes sure it happens, right? But not every patriarch or matriarch is able of doing that, right? So there is a whole program at the University of Southern California that my family went through on family businesses, and 3/4 of the program is therapy. So working with therapists to resolve family issues, and then about 1/4 of the time was working on how to resolve company issues, because the family issues bleed into the company, become issues for the company. So I made the conscious decision on every startup I've been in that, in the employee handbook, in the rules of the company, we cannot hire direct family members, right? We can, there are other relationships we can have with the family members, but we can't have them in lines of command, right? So we can never have people who are closely related, right, in a chain of command. They could be in other chains. That's not a problem. If they're completely separated by space and different groups and different managers, then that's manageable. I mean, it's doable. But if you have too many family members, then that becomes an issue too. And, the answer isn't, just shut down the family business, because that's not a good answer, right? Because you're going to have these problems. The answer is to have frank discussions that's hurting the company, that you can't do the things that are good for the company because family relationships are affecting those decisions, right? And that's the therapy part, right? Is to work through how the family is going to resolve these conflicts in a productive way, or else the company is going to suffer or even die, right? And so that's the only guidance I can tell you, is that, if you're going to have a family business, you have to spend a lot of time working through and resolving family issues and having these discussions, like saying, hey, my uncle, we need to sit down because I'm supposed to be managing my uncle. Here's the evidence that he's not performing, but because he's my uncle, I'm having a trouble writing that review, right? So how do we resolve this issue, right? That's what you do, right? In family businesses, you have to do a lot of family discussions and family therapy. And when I mean therapy is talking through and resolving these issues. Now, if the family can't resolve the issues, and if they're persistent, then I would advise you get a job somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the last resort. Thank you so much, Professor. Maybe it's not easy. It takes bravery to sit down and talk like that to your own family member, but it's needed because business, right? Okay.
And if you can't do it, then that's a signal that you probably need to find another place to work, right? So.
True. All right. We have Ms. Suci Ramadhani Aziz. Please ask your question.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Dara. I want to ask to Mr. Brandon, one of the important things that must be done when build a business is to determine the customer segment, because many new business fail because they are not commitment and do not focus on the customer segment. So my question is, for the current digitalization period, what segment is very supportive for the smooth running of a new business, and how to commitment to maintain customer segment share? Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a short answer, which is the best customer segment is a paying customer segment, right? But customer segmentation is really the bailiwick or the area of marketing and market strategy. In the foundations course, which is free here, right? That if you set up an account, they'll talk a bit about how you start to think about customer segments and how you identify them, right? Both for digital and non-digital. So, what you're looking for, the simple way is you're looking for your paying customer, right? And then, but you could have multiple customers that pay, but they could have different patterns of behavior, right? So, like the mother with 2 kids is going to have, if they're paying customers, has a very different behavior than, say, a recent college graduate would, right? Who's working at their first job downtown Jakarta, right? They might both be buying your product or service, but they're different because A, their household situation is different, but B, that their needs and their wants are also going to be therefore different. So when we look at organizing customer segments, we look at demographics, psychographics, right? Behavioral indicators that start to group them into sort of buckets or categories, right? And what we do is we study lots of customers and we start to look for patterns that start to group them into clumps. And then once we've started to organize them some way, say, okay, it seems to be people with children are very different with people that have no children, right? Young couples without children. And then couples are very different than, say, single people, right? And then working professionals are different from, blue collar workers or people who do hard labor, right? So we start to see patterns of behavior, and this is where observation is critical. You study the groups of people to look for the patterns, and then you start to interview and talk to those subgroups to see if what you're seeing is consistent, and you start to identify these subsegments. And then you start to see what their patterns of purchasing are. So we talk about recency, frequency, monetization, right? RFM, right? So how recent was the last transaction? How frequent are they making transactions? And how much are they spending in each transaction? That's another way to organize them. So when you look at Starbucks, the example of if you were to sit down at a Starbucks and just watch people go through a line, right? So, okay, who tends to buy just a coffee and leave? And who buys a coffee, a sandwich, a bottle of water, fruit, buys a lot, right? That's a different behavior, that they're spending more per purchase. And then say, okay, how many times does this person come back? Are they there more than once a day? How frequent are they coming, right? How recent is it every morning, right? And you can start to organize people using these frameworks. And once you do that, then you're starting to organize them also based off of things that matter to the company. So the monetization part is key. So when you go in and calculate the lifetime value of a customer, you multiply the times they visit, how much they spend, and that gives you the lifetime value of a customer. And so what you'll see is when you start to segment customers by psychographics, demographics, and other criteria, and then see what the RFM, recency, frequency, monetization patterns are of those different groups, then you can say, okay, well, this group tends to come more often and spend more. So I should focus my attention on making them happy, right? So how do I make them happy? So that's how you start to target the customer segments that are going to be more profitable. This is, I'm a little bit on thin ice here because this is the area of market strategy, and I'm an entrepreneur. I use it, but I'm not a specialist in market strategy. So your marketing professor is probably the best person to talk about. How do you segment people? How do you group customer segments? How do you study the purchasing behavior? And how do you determine which is your most profitable customer?
All right. Why? This is not even your specialization, but your answer is already very comprehensive for newbies like us. Thank you so much, Professor. Okay, so one last question from Ms. Ria Rahma.
Yes, thank you. Okay, my question is, we sell a common product, and many companies sell those kind of products, so that we are confused to find what is our unique selling to make a difference.
So say two companies are selling coffee, right? And it's the same product, right? And you're trying to figure out why is one doing better at selling coffee? Is that the question?
I'm sorry, could you repeat it again?
So you have two identical products, right? But one is selling better than the other. And you're trying to figure out why, if the products are the same, why is one performing better? Is that the question?
No. I mean, many companies in Indonesia sell that kind of product that we do sell it to. So many competitors there, and to us it is so hard to find our unique selling to make the difference. Then as you mentioned before, that when we get the unique selling proposition for our company, that we will easily to get attract from the customer. So my problem is how to find our selling unique proposition.
So one, I would recommend watching Osterweiler's video on unique value proposition, because he goes through it to some extent. But ultimately, your unique value proposition is either an insight or an added feature or service that makes it easier for the customer than your competition. Now, bear in mind, your competition is always going to be seeking out ways to copy and mimic you, right? So you want to have multiple unique differences, and they can be small, but they add up to one major difference that leads the customer to buy from you. So I remember when I was looking at interviewing Bukalapak, I said, so what is different about you from Tokopedia, right? So Bukalapak focuses on the seller, right? So their primary focus was on the seller, I believe. And Tokopedia was primarily focusing on the buyer, right? So they had very different approaches to an e-commerce market. And so the set of decisions were radically different. So with Bukalapak, it was all about managing the sellers' accounts, helping them, with their inventory, helping them solve problems. Whereas Tokopedia was all about display and making it attractive for the customer segments. And so they were totally different approaches, right? And they could coexist because they had a different center of focus. You can't do both. It's very hard to focus completely on the customer and focus completely on the seller in the e-commerce. Usually you're picking one over the other. And so here it comes down to a set of decisions and choices. And so what you're looking for is lots of small little things that you can do that add up to a big difference in the end to the customer. And so your job is to figure out what are the set of small things that you can add to your product or service that make the life of the customer better, right? And then focus on those, because then they become systems of choices that are harder to duplicate, right? A single choice is easy to duplicate, but a set of choices is hard to duplicate. And so when we think about things like Netflix, right? They were going to do mail delivery. They were going to set up mail delivery near the big cities. They were creating a queue that comes up with recommendations. They had lots of decisions that as a whole created a harder landscape for competitors to duplicate. So when I talk to entrepreneurs, I usually guide them towards a system of small things that make the customer's life better, to add up to a much better experience as a whole for the customer, as opposed to just one individual thing, because then it's easy for a competitor to duplicate one thing, but it's harder if there's like maybe like 5 or 6 small things that you do well, a little bit better, or add value to the customer. And then the competitor is trying to figure out, why are you doing better than me? You've got, is it because of this one thing, and they try it and it's not enough, right? So that's usually what the guidance I give to startups is, to come up with a set of small things as well as some big things that, as a whole, make it hard for the competition to duplicate. But you only will be able to do that if you study the customer and you do a lot of customer research to figure out what are their pain points, and you start to tick off pain points that you're eliminating for them. So systems thinking is usually what we refer to here as a systematic approach is the way to sort of hold back the competition.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hope that answers your question, Ms. Ria. And that was the last question for our Q&A session tonight, or this morning for Professor Fleming's time. Once again, thank you so much for being here, Professor. And it's really an honor for all of us. We are not even a student of University of Washington, but we can get this very, very insightful lecture that will hopefully inspire us to do our own business, or maybe start from joining business case competitions and all other useful purposes. So from the committee, on behalf of the committee, we would like to give you a certificate as the speaker for today's session in this event, America-Europe Exchange and Conference session. To you, Professor Brendan Fleming, for your dedication as a speaker for tonight. And hopefully we can meet soon. Hopefully we can invite you directly to Indonesia. Have you ever been to Indonesia, sir?
Oh, many times. Yeah, I've
Whoa,
traveled many
where?
times. Jakarta, Bandung, Bali, multiple trips to Jakarta and Bandung, but only one trip to Bali. Hoping to schedule another one with student team. I usually bring students, MBA students from Washington there, but all of the travel has been shut down because of the pandemic, but hope to do it again soon. And I have family from Jakarta. My grandmother is Dutch Indonesian, so.
Oh, so you're like part Indonesian too. What? That's That's so nice to hear. Okay, which part of Indonesia that you like the most out of the
Oh,
three?
well, I'll be honest, Bandung is one of my favorite places, right? And then, you know, Bali was great, but I think I like Jakarta better. So.
All right. So everyone, even Professor Fleming from the US has already visited Indonesia. So all of you guys who are in Southeast Asia but never been to Indonesia, please come. All right. Thank you so much. And to keep this event in our memories, I would like to invite all of you to turn on your camera so that we can take picture together with one of the top professors in the University of Washington. It's really an honor for all of us. So please turn on your cameras if you can do it so that we can have our photo session with our Professor Fleming. Okay, Professor Roy Darmawan is also ready to join the photo session. Thank you for being here too, Professor Roy.
Yeah, so
All right. We will wait for a bit, yeah, because several people are still turning on their cameras because they would not want to miss this opportunity to take picture not only with Professor Roy Darmawan but also our Professor Brendan Fleming from the US. Wow, this has been a quite long session because we passed the time, but I enjoyed it, and I'm sure and I hope you guys also enjoyed it because we really got a very, very insightful new knowledge from Professor Fleming. Okay, I think most people already turned on their cameras, so we can start our photo session. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One more time. 3 is the magic number. 1, 2, 3. All right. Once again, thank you so much, Professor Roy, for being here to give us this opening
you're
speech and
welcome.
being
Thank you
here
very
with
much.
us.
Then,
And also to Professor Brendan Fleming, thank you so much for sharing these great insights, your experience, and your knowledge to all of us. Do you
Could
have?
you give me, so I'm going to email the slide deck to Roy. Is there another email address that I should send it to just as a?
Oh, to Professor
You
Roy
can give
is
me your
fine.
email as well in the chat so that I can send it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
In the meantime, I would ask the committee if there is the email, but for now, to Professor Roy is also fine. Thank you so much, Professor
All right,
Fleming.
I'll do that. I'll do that right now. Take care,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for making time in this morning there to all of us. And for all of you guys for being here at such an hour, but you are still very energetic and very curious about a lot of things. And Professor Fleming is also very energetic to fulfill our curiosity. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care too, Professor. Thank you so much. And this is the end of our session for tonight. And on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank all of you for your attention and also for your curiosity. This is an enjoyable session tonight. And also on behalf of the committee, I would like to apologize for any shortcomings. But before we truly close the session, as usual, let's yell our tagline. So when I say, who are you? You will say, I'm a leader, you're a leader, we are leaders. All right, everyone ready? Professor,
Yes.
ready?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Who are you?
I'm
a
leader.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest and see you tomorrow.
Thank
Thank you, Professor Brendan.
Thank you.
Professor Roy. See you, everyone.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Thank you. Welcome.